Hello and welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Iran's top diplomat briefly returned to Pakistan to reignite negotiations. But U.S. President Donald Trump said talks could be held by phone after calling off plans to send envoys for peace talks. Starting today, the Korean government is rolling out a relief fund to help ease the impact of soaring living costs driven by high oil prices. Worth about $4 billion, the fund will be distributed to around 32 million people in the bottom 70% of income earners in the country. New details about the suspect in Saturday's shooting at the White House Correspondents Dinner in Washington, D.C. indicate that he sent a note to his family members, saying it was his duty to target Trump administration officials, though he did not name the president directly. We begin this morning with the latest on the conflict in the Middle East. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has returned to Pakistan as Tehran pushes new ceasefire demands through mediation, even as U.S. diplomatic momentum falters. U.S. President Donald Trump has canceled a planned envoy mission citing lack of progress, though indirect talks between the two sides are ongoing. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has returned to Islamabad just one day after a brief visit to Oman, as diplomatic efforts to end the conflict with the United States continue to shift. According to Iranian state media on Sunday, Araghchi met with Sultan Haytham bin Tariq in Muscat before traveling back to Pakistan's capital. There he held talks with senior officials, including Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir. Tehran says this visit is part of ongoing ceasefire negotiations, with Pakistan serving as a key mediator between Iran and the U.S. During the talks, Araghchi is believed to have presented a detailed set of proposals outlining Iran's conditions for ending hostilities. Following his meetings in Islamabad, Araghchi is expected to travel to Moscow for high-level consultations, signaling continued coordination with key regional players. Meanwhile, momentum on the U.S. side appears uncertain. The White House had previously announced plans to send envoys, including Steve Witkoff and Jerry Kushner, to Islamabad to build on earlier face-to-face talks. But shortly after Araghchi's departure, President Donald Trump said he had canceled the mission, citing a lack of progress. Speaking to Fox News on Sunday, Donald Trump said the United States would not be sending envoys, signaling a pause in direct diplomatic outreach. He indicated that dialogue remains possible if Iran initiates contact, emphasizing that Washington is open to talks without deploying a delegation, instead stressing that Iran can just call. Despite this setback, indirect communication between the two sides is continuing, according to Pakistani officials familiar with the matter, suggesting that diplomatic channels remain open even as tensions persist. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
So now for a closer look at how the conflict between the United States and Iran could unfold from here, we're joined today by Mohammed Gura, Professor of Middle East Economics at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Professor Gura, thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure.
So Trump on Saturday called off plans for two of his top advisors to visit Pakistan, and he indicated the ball is now in Iran's court. He said Washington and Tehran can talk by phone. So how is the U.S. planning to navigate the conflict from here?
Actually, I think U.S. is using maximum pressure with limited diplomacy. So the cancellation of the Pakistan visit, but also keeping the doors open, sends a message to Iran that U.S. is still there, still trying to have some sort of a connection with the Iranians and so on. But it would not be easy. It would not be just, they will not accept any deal with the Iranians. So, of course, there are some benefits for the Americans. They are pushing harder and harder Iran. Iran is now in a very bad situation. We have also reports that U.S. has been seizing ships of Iranian oil in the Indian Ocean, also in other parts, and even seizing the ships and moving it to U.S. So I think Iranian economy is really suffering. U.S. is putting more pressure on them, and they are trying to push them in a corner. I think sooner or later, Iranians have to negotiate. They have to reach some sort of consensus with the U.S. because I think the time is not in their favor as much as possible.
Right, and Iran's foreign minister briefly returned to Pakistan for talks despite the absence of these U.S. counterparts. After he visited Oman and Russia, how could peace talks between the two sides still take place in the near future?
Yes, I think it will take place, but it will take time as well. It's not easy. I mean, we know from reports also that it's not easy to reach a consensus even within Iran itself. There are many factions inside the Iranian government right now. We have also reports about Kalibov leaving his post. So there are actually conflicting news from Iran. So, but at the end of the day, it's the economic stress that will move Iran into peace negotiations. And this is what U.S. is hoping for, pushing them further and further in order to negotiate, in order to reach some sort of consensus. We have also some reports talking about Iran seizing oil, seizing uranium enrichment for 20 years. Still, of course, this is not really clear, but we have to wait and see. However, I think it will take time, more time than we expected, but at the end of the day, some sort of an agreement will be reached sooner or later.
Right, and what's also unclear is who exactly is running Iran right now, as Iran's top negotiator, Mohammad Ghalibaf, has reportedly resigned, and Trump says it's unclear who's running the country. And with a lot of speculation, surrounding the new supreme leader, who exactly holds the decisive power in peace talks right now?
That's an excellent question. Let me tell you that from the perspective of at least economic research, when we are doing political economic research on related to this kind of situations, we have like lots of research that talking about hardliners having advantage in the times of economic stress. Usually we have this idea that when we have more economic pressure, we have more problems and so on, people will try to hang out to their latest defense or the most important defense that they have. Also, hardliners in Iran play a major role when it comes to government control and so on. And hardliners are gaining momentum because they think they are in some sort of a holy war. We cannot downgrade the idea that Iranians have when it comes to martyrdom, when it comes to the culture, the Shia ideas and so on of martyrdom, of fighting infidels or fighting Iran and so on. So this is part of the Iranian personality. We should not look away from this. So I think hardliners are gaining momentum, are gaining advantage, which will make it very hard, of course, to reach a consensus. However, at the end of the day, we will need to reach a consensus because they are suffering right now. They cannot continue with this. However, but the thing is, we can talk later, perhaps, how will it happen. Even if we reach a consensus, I think the Iranian regime itself or the Iranian government will find it very hard to hold the country in one piece, even after the negotiations. But we will have to wait and see see how this develops in the next few weeks.
I see. And in Israel, it launched more strikes on southern Lebanon, despite the ceasefire agreement being extended by 3 weeks recently. So what's next for the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah?
Well, this is, I mean, it's an ongoing story. It never ends, this ongoing war, of course. For Israel, we are, I mean, inside the Israeli political situation right now, we can see also lots of moves inside Israel right now when it comes to the political factions and so on. There is a move, there is this pressure on the government in order to finish with this fight with the Hezbollah, in order to reach also peace. I wouldn't say peace, but in order to eliminate the danger of Hezbollah. This is one big call inside Israel, from my readings, from my knowledge of Israel's political economy situation. On the other hand, Hezbollah will not be easy about Israel, will not make their life easier. So they're also pushing towards more conflict and so on. The people who are really hurting by this are the Lebanese people, actually. The Lebanese government, when you look at the GDP of Lebanon lost almost 30 to 40% of its GDP because of this conflict. So Lebanese government is trying to push hard in order to also reach a consensus, to reach a deal, to finish with this conflict. But I think it will not be an easy task because we have decades of fights, we have decades of pressure, of conflict, of violence. It will not finish in 1 week. We will have to wait and see, but I think with the international pressure, with the US support, with the international community support, I think some sort of a deal will reach also, considering Hezbollah has no sources of aid coming from Iran anymore. So I think at the end of the day, we will hopefully reach some sort of an agreement when it comes to Israel-Lebanon. But of course, we will have to wait and see how things will develop in the next few weeks.
Right, we'll have to see how that goes. All right, Professor Gura, thank you so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Starting today, the Korean government is distributing its high oil price relief fund worth 6.1 trillion Korean won, or roughly $4.1 billion to cushion the heavy economic blow from rising living costs. Our Kim Do-yeon has more.
Korea has begun officially deploying its high oil price relief fund to mitigate the economic impact of soaring living costs. The high oil price relief fund targets around 32.5 million people, making up the lower 70% of income earners. Monday's initial rollout prioritizes the most vulnerable demographics. For basic livelihood recipients, those in the metropolitan area receive 550,000 won, or about $372, while residents in non-metropolitan or depopulated areas receive 600,000 won. Single-parent families and the next lowest income group receive 450,000 and 500,000 won, respectively.
The shock of such crises hits the vulnerable first and most harshly. In times like these, government finances must take the lead and serve as a breakwater to protect the public economy from the waves of crisis.
Others who are eligible will receive their payouts during the second phase, scheduled from May 18th to July 3rd. Payments range from 100,000 won, or roughly $68 for those in the metropolitan area, to up to 250,000 won, or $169, depending on region. Funds distributed via credit cards, check cards, or prepaid cards can be used the following day, while gift certificates picked up in person can be used immediately. To stimulate the local economy, usage of the relief funds is strictly limited. Recipients must spend the money within their registered residential city or county. Spending is also restricted to small businesses with annual sales under 3 billion won, or approximately $2 million, excluding entertainment and gambling establishments. All distributed funds must be used by August 31st. As for foreigners, those registered at the same address as a South Korean national, as well as permanent residents, marriage migrants, and recognized refugees are eligible, provided they are enrolled in the National Health Insurance or Medical Aid programs. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S., new details have emerged after shots were fired at the White House Correspondents Dinner in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, with reports that the suspect sent a manifesto to his family before the attack. According to the New York Post, 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen outlined his motives and targets, using extreme language to justify the act. While he did not explicitly name President Donald Trump, the statement is being interpreted as targeting the president and senior administration officials. The suspect also apologized to potential victims, saying he did not expect forgiveness. Authorities have not yet verified the document and say the investigation into the motive is ongoing. President Lee Jae-myung has condemned the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, calling it shocking and regrettable. In a social media post on Sunday, he described political violence as a grave threat that undermines the foundation of democracy and can never be justified. He added that the Korean government firmly opposes all forms of violence and extremism that erode democratic values and the rule of law. President Lee also expressed relief that all those present, including U.S. President Donald Trump, were safe and offered his deepest sympathies to the American people. And South Korea is stepping up efforts to tackle one of its most pressing public health challenges with a new nationwide campaign bringing together government, communities, and public figures. Our Buniran files this report.
A message of connection and a reminder that support can come from many places. South Korea's Prime Minister Kim Min-seok on Friday launched the 1,000 Lives Guardian project at Cheonggye Plaza, setting a goal of reducing the number of suicide deaths by 1,000 this year. The initiative focuses on expanding prevention efforts beyond government policy, encouraging wider participation from communities, institutions, and the public. As part of that effort, a group of artists, entertainers, and public figures have been appointed as life ambassadors, using their platforms to share messages of support and awareness. Among them is NCT's Toyoung, who took to the stage to perform Sandbox, a song from his second solo album intended to serve as a source of energy and support for people struggling through tough times. In his remarks, the Prime Minister emphasized the role of connection in prevention.
I've come to believe that one of the most important ways to address the issue of suicide is to ease and share one another's sense of loneliness.
Here at Cheonggye Plaza, the focus is on making support more visible and more accessible. Officials say efforts like this aim to build a stronger sense of connection, making sure that people know where to turn when they need help.
The campaign also brings in dozens of organizations designated as guardian institutions, each working on tailored programs. Many attendees participated in interactive displays where they were encouraged to share messages of hope and solidarity for others. Among the corporate participants, SK hynix showcased a booth featuring its AI-driven senior care technology, including the AI-friendly counseling center, which utilizes artificial intelligence to provide mental health screenings and emotional support for the elderly. The initiative comes as South Korea continues efforts to bring down its suicide rate, which remains among the highest in the OECD. Organizers say meaningful progress will depend not just on policy, but on sustained attention and participation across society. Arirang News.
Self-driving cars are becoming more common, but safety remains key. Our Kim Sa-young shows us how a newly developed roadside radar sensor helps detect hidden vehicles, cyclists, and pedestrians in poor visibility.
Autonomous vehicles are becoming increasingly more common on roadways, but maximizing their safety may require more than refining vehicle technology alone. Researchers at Rice University in Houston, Texas, led by postdoctoral researcher Jo Gun-woo, have developed a compact roadside radar sensor, IDAR, designed to help self-driving cars detect vehicles, cyclists, and pedestrians that may be hidden from a vehicle's onboard sensors at intersections or under poor visibility conditions.
Radar can only detect objects when its signal bounces back to them. But in many real-world situations, signals reflect away instead of returning. And by placing sensors on roadside infrastructure, we can observe the same scene from different angles.
Radar systems send out signals that reflect off objects and return with information. But only a small portion comes back directly, leaving vehicles with an incomplete view of surrounding traffic. IDAR, a low-power millimeter wave radar sensor about the size of an orange, addresses this limitation by capturing reflected signals that would otherwise be lost, enhancing the accuracy of environmental sensing for autonomous systems. The system uses a 3D printed lens to determine the direction of incoming radar signals. In testing, it was able to identify signal direction more than 200 times faster than conventional radar designs. Researchers say the technology shows strong potential, though further validation and development are still needed.
Before deploying on real roads, we need to ensure that the system is reliable, affordable, and scalable, and that it integrates seamlessly with existing vehicles under high mobility. Most importantly, we want to verify that IDAR can detect critical scenarios like pedestrians stepping out from a bus or crashes happening behind the site.
If successfully deployed, it could play a key role in improving the safety and reliability of autonomous driving systems. Kim Sa-young, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chu Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. Israel ordered its military on Saturday to strike Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and said Hezbollah had fired targets into northern Israel. Israeli forces struck rocket launchers and facilities used by Hezbollah's elite Radwan units overnight. 4 people were killed in the Israeli strikes. 2 Hezbollah rockets crossed into northern Israel, 1 intercepted with no casualties reported. A Hezbollah lawmaker had declared the ceasefire meaningless just 1 day after President Trump announced its 3-week extension. Mali's Defense Minister Sadio Camara was killed on Saturday when militants attacked his residence near the main army base outside Bamako. The al-Qaeda-linked group JNIM, working alongside a Tuareg rebel faction, hit multiple locations, including near the capital's airport and cities further north, including Mopti, Sawe, and Gao. The militants also claimed to have captured the strategic city of Kidal, where Mali's military said operations were still underway. Russian mercenaries supporting the government were reported wounded. The attacks represent a significant setback for the government's Russia-backed security strategy. In the U.S., Kevin Warsh's path to leading the Federal Reserve cleared on Sunday after Republican Senator Tom Tillis said he would no longer block the confirmation. This follows the Justice Department's decision on Friday to drop its criminal probe into current Fed Chair Jerome Powell. With Tillis on board, Senate Republicans now have the votes to advance Warsh's nomination. Jerome Powell's term ends on May 15th, leaving the Senate just weeks to confirm his replacement. Kenya's Sebastian Sawe made history on Sunday at the London Marathon, becoming the first person to run an official marathon in under 2 hours. Sawe finished the race in 1 hour, 59 minutes and 30 seconds. He broke the world record set by the late Kelvin Kiptum in 2023. Second-place finisher Yomif Kejelka of Ethiopia also finished under 2 hours, making it the most remarkable men's marathon podium ever. In the women's race, Ethiopia's Tigst Assefa broke her own world record, winning in 2 hours, 15 minutes and 41 seconds.
That early taste of summer is taking a step back across the central regions today. The new week began with sunny skies this morning, but with clouds increasing and rain on the way, temperatures will be closer to where they should be for this time of year for central parts of Korea this week. That rain begins tonight across the capital area and Gangwon-do province, spreading into Chungcheong-do province by early tomorrow morning, with 5 to 20 millimeters in the forecast. But before that rain arrives, dry conditions remain in place across central regions, with dry weather advisory being in place. And as you know, with hiking and camping season in full swing, extra caution with anything that creates a spark is a smart move. Meanwhile, southern regions will stay much warmer with sunnier skies today, topping out at 27 degrees in Daegu, Gyeongju at 25 degrees, but Seoul only makes it to 22 degrees Celsius. But once the rain clears, skies brighten again and pleasant spring weather should return.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.